You are the nicest.
Confound it all! This page too! That makes 5 in total. This is unacceptable! A page from one of these texts, and 4 others, torn right from the spine. I've consulted with Urog's apprentice girl, and she insisted, rather emphatically, that none of these tomes have been checked out for years. I told the girl that wouldn't preclude a thief from browsing the cases. I don't blame her, though. It's the head librarian's duty to keep more sensitive texts behind sealed doors. Or perhaps it's the fault of the one who trained him. In either case, the result is the same. It is as I feared. Someone has managed to steal key pages from the writings of Trictus. You need to brush up on your history. Or stop to listen when professors are lecturing. Although I admit Travis's voice is its own sleep spell. This nameless scribe you speak of is Vanus Galarion, founder of the Mages Guild.
Was there something specific you needed?
It is not an error. It's far more likely that Urog holds an opposing position regarding the substance of these texts. Not to mention a stubborn refusal to recognize that a controversial theory might actually have merit.
Disappointed is not the
The majority of scholars are split between 2 disparate camps. Some believe the texts are worthless scribbles written by a child, one who had yet to grasp the vastness of his destiny. Others contend that the author is not Vanus himself, but a pretender hoping to profit from the mage's name. Both camps, however, are in agreement that the texts themselves have no intellectual merit. There are some, however, who attribute the text to a different origin. Not the young Trictus, but the elder Vanus Galarion. The theory states that Vanus wrote the text in the guise of his younger self, precisely so that scholars would question its authenticity. By diverting the eyes of those who seek power, it provided an extra layer of security, in addition to the cryptic nature of the text itself. I mentioned the pages from 5 separate texts were stolen. This is no coincidence. I'm sure you can divine why. There were 6 members on the council, if I'm not mistaken. But at the very least, you demonstrate some knowledge of Tamrielic history. Albeit wrong. Not all things are meant to be complex. Sometimes, one grasps for answers within the stars, when their query lies right under their nose. 5 texts corresponds with 5 schools of magic. It is well known that Galarion's gifts for magic were quite diverse. He could restore a rose to full bloom not long after burning it aflame, all the while fooling the mind into believing its scent had rotted away. The theory goes that Galarion was on the verge of completing 5 new spells, 1 for each school. Spells of such tremendous power that even the immortal armies of Manimako would countenance their fear. Unfortunately, Galarion's obsession with his nemesis deprived him of his patience. Nevertheless, before he embarked on the great battle, he left notes encoded in 5 works, so others could continue his research. I have an inkling. I was able to glean some clues based on my interviews of the residents of Winterhold, who seem far more observant of mages than the faculty. I sent my assistant, Jado Ra, to investigate the matter further, but I fear something grave has befallen him. Finally, someone with initiative. I need someone to scout the area he was investigating. Your safety is paramount. If the mage in question is at the site, do not attempt to confront him, even if Jado Ra is in imminent danger. The Khajiit is a crafty one. He will leave clues behind even in death. Yet if you sacrifice both your lives, both your efforts will be squandered. Good. Jado Ra last left for Solitude, but it is unlikely he is still there. I would start with the caverns near the shoreline. If you find him, and find him well, he may ask for a passphrase. Yes. The problem is, I seem to have forgotten that inscrutable Khajiit word he gave me. So in exchange, I ask you to tell him this. Tell him how, when I met him, I mocked his whiskers, how they were as black as an Imperial's hair. Tell him that his eyes are so narrow that even when he laughs, he looks unhappy. Yet their color still shines as bright as the sun. And if he finds that too sentimental, tell him he was more valuable as a rug. And when he accidentally lights his fur on fire, he would no longer be worth anything to anyone.
Oh, no, not really. I've forgotten what I was looking for.
Well then, let me know if you need anything.
What's that?
Greetings, Archmage. Each book is a cleverly crafted tale that hints towards the ideals of a particular school of magic. However, the overall narrative is unimportant. From what I have gathered in my time here, it seems the school of magic is simply a mechanism. For instance, I found lighting a text with an alteration spell revealed a hidden message written in an ink altered to mimic a human soul. Of course, without the knowledge to light the aura of life aglow, the mage's search would end there. The chain continues until one reaches the destination, the final pages that contain detailed notes on the crafting of a new spell. I'm afraid not. The texts are evidence, and the methods Galarian used to encode the journals must undergo further study. Once I have informed Urog of his omission, he will add the works to this library's collection, along with the missing pages, should they be retrieved. If you have scholarly interest, however, I can share with you the 5 tales of Galarian's youth. They are quite interesting. As a young child, Galarian's father bought books from smugglers in order to teach his son how to read. As serfs of a minor nobleman, Lord Janess of Solakik-on-Kur, such knowledge was strictly forbidden. Galarian recounted how his father taught him to avert his eyes at every signpost, and to speak with improper diction. Most of all, he warned him not to reference the tales he read, but more importantly, the cities, beasts, and forests contained therein. For the spell would be broken the instant their lord realized the boy knew things his eyes could not see.
Ah, yes, of course. No, I don't need
Galarian's mother was an old-fashioned woman, one comfortable with her station. She never wanted to deprive Galarian of knowledge. She was, however, fearful of the consequences. A seed of dread was planted in her mind, and grew into a forest of despair. It was only a matter of time before her husband or her child would slip and betray their literacy. In truth, Lord Janess suspected nothing, but in her reality, she saw her husband on the gallows, and through her actions, she made it true. Vanessa's father died from the crime of literacy. He was hung, his body left out for weeks as the sweltering heat bubbled the skin of his fetid corpse. The effigy itself was gruesome, but so was the cruelty of Lord Janess. He forced Galarian to scrub the gallows every day, as his father hung lifelessly above him. He held the lessons of his father close to his heart, and never spoke an indignant word, no matter how callously the nobleman prodded him. However, if one stayed awake past the dead of night, one could hear the violence echoing from the basement of the servants' quarters. As a child, Vanus Galerion escaped his birth home of Solikik on Kur. He simply crept out of his quarters one night and ran. He never stopped running. He had trekked halfway across the Somerset Isle when he reached the shores of Alinor. There was nowhere left to run. Exhausted, he collapsed in a ditch. It is there that a band of troubadours found his body and nursed him back to health. They employed him as an errand boy and gave him food and shelter, and the life he had seemingly lost was somehow returned to him. Vanus Galerion once ran with a group of troubadours. They performed from city to city, regaling crowds with their song and flair. One of them was a former jester, a man with deft hands. From out of the ether he would withdraw a bouquet of flowers or a septum from your ear. However, it was the group as a whole who cast a spell on the young boy, drawing a smile that had been lost to the void. As you will. My name is Olivia Moronin, a former member of the Mages Guild at the Arcane University in Cyrodiil. When the guild disbanded, many of my colleagues regrouped to form the Synod. However, their objectives do not align with the tenets Galerion and the Council established when they founded the guild. Nor do they abide by the teachings we have stood by in the centuries that followed. Theirs is an organization based on cupidity and lust for power. You flatter me, but not all of us can have childhoods as interesting as Vanus Galerion's. If the Divines are good, no one ever will. The college itself is a breathtaking wonder, a citadel of knowledge, standing high over the waves of ignorance. It is a fortress of higher thinking, buttressing its residents from the storms of indolence. However, while the students show an alacrity to learn, I am not entirely fond of the professors, who seem far too concerned with their own research. Although the necessity for research is vital, their failure to involve students in the process is disheartening. Whether it is fear for their safety or disinterest educating them, I cannot brook such a gross disinterest in the instruction of young minds. Only Tofter seems interested in performing his duties responsibly, but I have reservations in the manner with which he carries them. Farewell.
まさかあなたを悪名して
I'm so glad that we managed to rescue Tora Greymane, but it's really sad that he cannot return to his home in Whiterun. Strange.
Shoot him. I'll smash his head. Now I'm gonna get you.
I don't know if I like this.
If you are here to finish me, then do it. Don't just stand there gaping. Liar. Mr. Merrin will not trust one so green. That is true. Do you know it? She forgot it again, didn't she? It is not so hard a phrase, but rare enough to not be repeated. Babatigerini. It is a foolish concept. Such was how she viewed all things Khajiit, and how Khajiit view all things Imperial. Liar. Mr. Merrin will not... That is true. Do you know it? That is not the passphrase, and while the first part sounds like the Meister, the second seems a bit too... kind. What else did she say? That is a very old mage I know. You speak true. Which must mean you are a college mage, and my eyes have deceived me once again. Correct. We had interrogated witnesses in Winterhold. Like those at the college, they are very sensitive to mages, and these mages were 3. A child overheard them talking in private. It was but a single word, but it spoke volumes. The word was winking. The tavern owner there was, as the master likes to say, careless. They often are. He pointed me in the direction of a room with a rather curious tenant. He never left his quarters, but of guests he had 5 in as many nights. He could not risk entering the room. A cloaking spell is but a justice trick to mages who can detect the essence of life. It is by the luck of the twin moons that I found a friend in an Argonian named Gulam A, whose swift hands found the pockets of his visitors. That is the fault of my own hubris. Gulam A charged a steep price, but true to his word, what he possessed was worth every septim. The notes he stole contained 5 prospective locations where the mages planned to conduct their separate research. As per Master Marinen's instructions, I was to return to her with this information. I was about to do so when I saw the mage descend from his room. He was a Dunbar man, with a wisp of thick hair, eyes as hot as the sands of Elsewhere, and wings of crimson war paint gliding down his face. In his presence, this Khajiit did not move, could not move, yet all his fur stood on end. Perhaps it is the result of being Khajiit, but I followed, and he noticed, and so he led me here. It is only by virtue of Master Merrin's teaching that I managed to hold on to the document. I brought many sets of clothes in order to fashion a story. When I met the Dunmer at the inn, I was dressed as a farmer. When I shadowed him here, I came dressed as a thief. The mage assumed the first was a disguise, and the second my true form. Were I not a Khajiit, it is possible he would see past this disguise to the truth. However, like most illusions, the spell works best on those who wish to believe. No, I am afraid this cat has exhausted all of its lives. However, if you would be so kind, perhaps you would be willing to listen to a dying Khajiit's final request. When I was but a beggar, there was a Khajiit female who provided me with alms. She was a poor farmer, but wealthy with kindness. Such was her kindness that she considered my bread. While others tossed their septums with disdain, she traded her alms for petty magic tricks. I still remember how her ears perked up ever so softly whenever I would conjure an orb of light in my palm. It was during one of these tricks that Master Merlin recognized my talents. Finally, I thought, this Khajiit will earn some real respect. No one was more proud of me than the farmer. Yet in the months that followed, I changed. Suddenly it was I who could not associate with her. You would not be so kind if I were not dying, I presume. She was much the same. She could have been angry with me, but instead she granted my wish. Many times I would pass her on the street and say nothing. My eyes told her all she needed to know, and nothing she wanted to hear. No, that is not necessary. You see, on some nights you could stare at the twin moons sitting in the heavens like a pair of mismatched eyes. She told this foolish beggar that if one Khajiit prayed to Mesa and another prayed to Secunda, they could communicate through the stars. Her moon was Secunda, and mine Mesa. So my final request is this. The next time you look at the night sky and see the moons in flight, tell her I'm sorry, and I never had a better friend, or a kinder one. Your words warm my heart. This Khajiit thanks you dearly, but we are not done yet. There is still the business of the nodes, yes? Master Merlin once said that the greatest illusions require no spell. I had once resented the fact that people assumed I was a simple thief. My skills were such that I had earned an apprenticeship under a celebrated mage. Yet still people clutched their coin purses in my presence. When I addressed my concerns to Master Merlin, she called me a furry fool. That I was, on both counts. She made me realize that their perception of me was nascent. Make them clutch their purse, she said, instead of their shield. Thank you, friend. With that, this cat can rest easy. Tell Olivia not to blame herself. Her teachings did not fail me. They are what gave this poor beggar a reason to live, and honor in death.
I find this a bit scary.
Need something?
Greetings, Archmage. Well done. What have you learned? That is unfortunate. He was a good mage. Were you able to procure any information at all? Quite the contrary. When I say he was a good mage, it is perhaps the highest compliment I could ever pay him. I knew the Khajiit for 10 years. Do not pretend to understand our relationship, and do not presume you can better eulogize those you barely know. It is more insulting to his memory that we diverge toward a meaningless argument, when the pages are still in the hands of rogue mages. Now, do you have any information for me or not?
大学にある書庫のすべてを読み尽くすには
Let me see those.
一体どれだけの時間を要す
This
る
is
のか
precisely what we needed. You have done admirably, as did my assistant in delivering these to you. Now that you are entrenched in this matter, I have no doubt that you are the only one capable of pursuing it to the end. This is far more perilous than the previous job, but I believe you will reward my confidence in you. As you may have guessed, the 5 locations listed are likely secluded areas where the mages can conduct their individual research. 1 mage for each school of magic. To defeat them will require skill and cunning, and an understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of each art. The notes will provide their locations, and you can consult me for any advice regarding their procurement. Do you have any questions before you go? Indeed you must. I will offer any assistance I can.
まさか
It is a mistake to assume the conjurer hides behind the beasts he summons. For such a mage can conjure a dagger as easily as a Dremora. There are those who conjure Atronox to support them from the rear, whereas others will conjure bows to lend aid to their armies. When you enter their chamber, take note of the bodies strewn about, as they are weapons hoisted on a rack, to be retrieved at the time of battle. However, like any weapon, they are slaves to the one who wields them, and are as much a tool as they are a foe. An illusionist attacks the mind. He plays the drums of courage and fear to convince both you and the bandits that they are invincible. Illusion can fool your eyes, become your heart's greatest desire, but it cannot fool all the senses, and that is where you will find truth. However, the greatest illusion is not the product of any spell. It is the doubt one has in the efficacy of illusion magic. Do not underestimate the illusion mage. That is my advice to you. To know that reality is a falsehood is the essence of alteration magic. While illusion affects only the caster and the target, alteration is to change the very fabric of our world so that all are affected. Alteration can be used to blind your opponent with mage light or turn your flesh into steel. It is a magic that prevents stealth, as a mage can detect your presence while cloaking his own. Alteration does not have an offensive spell. What it does is use endurance as a weapon. Whether it be with potions of health, stamina, or magicka, one must be prepared for a long fight. The most infuriating of opponents, for every blow you strike, every spell you cast, is nullified by their unyielding ability to heal. Moreover, when such a mage is surrounded by powerful warriors, their strength grows by leaps and bounds, as all are healed that stand beside him. Such a mage will confine himself into a small area to increase the efficacy of his healing spell. However, this tactic provides an opening. Just as many can be healed, many can be damaged, and the cost of restoration is far greater than destruction. The name destruction implies havoc, and while such magic is capable of immense damage, it is not as inelegant as one might presume. Lightning, ice, and fire, each element has applications beyond the inflicting of pain. A bolt of lightning can disarm a trained mage, sapping him of his magicka. The swiftest runner will find it difficult to wade through briars of ice. Flames will turn your own tunic into a weapon, draining your health as it burns through your skin. To defeat a master of destruction magic, one must use their wards wisely, for there is more than just health one must account for. Very well. Return to me if you seek my counsel. Farewell.
also heard footsteps. Be careful. Uh-oh. Look over there. Shoot him! And smash his head.
You are nothing. You stupid milk drinker. You don't scare me. Don't try that. Let's see if you can. Oh.
Was that you? What did you eat? Mm-hmm.
Shoot him and smash his head. Ha-ha!
Go ahead, try and fight back.
thought I heard footsteps. You'll taste my sword! You will be so dead.
Greeting, mage.
Wonderful. Be sure to check with Colette if you have any injuries. That is tremendous news. If you're running low on potions, be sure to stock up at Birna's. Stupendous. I hope you did not cause too much collateral damage in procuring these. Excellent. To defeat a conjurer is to defeat the armies of oblivion and death. No small feat. This does not seem to be the right page. Be careful with illusion mages. Things are not always what they seem. Until next time.
I thought I heard
What are you doing?
Haha!
You want something from me?
Shoot! I'll smash his head. You're good. I wish I could use a bow that well.
Fantastic. Although I will have to verify if the text is real. One can never be too careful with an illusionist. That you have. I will have Urog get on rebinding the books immediately. In the meantime, I offer you this staff as a reward for your service. It has no celebrated history. However, not all things powerful require such affectations, nor do they deprive you of the experience you have earned. Through these trials, you have proven your ability as a mage is without peer, and for that reason your mission is not yet complete. For the knowledge and experience you have gained through this quest must be shared with your colleagues here at the college, so that all may benefit. Our business, however, is suspended for now, although I may need your assistance once more in the future. Let me again offer my sincerest thanks, on behalf of all mages, not just myself and Jado Ra. The knowledge extracted from these texts may lead to great discoveries and new frontiers. Quite slow. It seems the mages have placed additional layers of security on top of Galarian's original text. As you may have noticed, the pages are littered with various magical runes, whose patterns transcribe into messages written in code. I had hoped to depart from this location once the matter of the text was concluded, but it appears I will need to conduct further research.